Well, 2020 is a bitch. Let's try to focus on the good things, shall we? One of which being my YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to at this very moment. Another being, we're finally getting Bill and Ted 3 Face the Music on August 28th. Unless we don't, because 2020. I guess we'll see on August 28th. And if you're watching this at some time in the future, come back and warn us, dudes. Soon, we will no longer have to wonder what happened to the dudes, and we'll know what Death has been up to this whole time. And we won't have to rely on a hit-or-miss cartoon series or a hard-to-find live-action TV show to get our Bill and Ted fix. It seems clear that whatever studio owned the property knew there was still some stretching room with their proverbial Melvin, that being the Bill and Ted franchise, as 2 attempts at a cartoon series were made, and eventually, even a live-action TV show would hit the small screen. So what other shenanigans did the dudes get into? And why isn't this live-action show a cult hit? Let's take a most complex yet inspiring adventure through time. Some TV shows last forever. Others live on in the TV wasteland. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was released February 17th, 1989. The film received generally positive reviews and was a huge success at the box office, grossing $40.5 million against $6.5 million.
La glace.
So naturally, a sequel was put on the fast track. Sorta. The team behind Bill and Ted is the essential trio of Scott Krupp, who was the producer, and writers Chris Matheson and Ed Sullivan, who'd go on to work in every film installment from there on out. And before the sequel Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey was released, a deal for an animated series was made, and Hanna-Barbera produced 13 episodes, featuring returning actors Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, George Carlin, and even had Little Richard doing some voices. Hell, even Budnick was cast as Deacon. And the series featured the dudes in fun adventures like exploiting time travel to replace a broken vase, and even meeting Babe Ruth, Dracula, and Harriet Tubman in the same episode. A second season was then produced by Deke Entertainment, this time featuring actors Evan Richards and Christopher Kennedy voicing the title roles.
I'm Bill S. Preston, Esquire. And I am Ted Theodore Logan. Together, we are Wild Stallions.
Greetings, excellent one.
The plots devolve into things like shrinking people for interspace-esque adventures and traveling into video games or some shit. I kinda got sidetracked, to be honest. Star Evan Richards had this to say about working on the cartoon series. They asked us to do the cartoon after we shot the 7 episodes. It was a fun, easygoing experience. Also a chance for us to continue playing the characters we enjoyed. I thought they got even more surreal and experimental than the live-action series or movies, which wasn't a bad thing, indeed. You can't really screw up the characters of Bill and Ted. It's just a matter of continually finding the magic and chemistry that was created in the first film. However, they decided to wait to release the show until Bogus Journey made more of a profit in the box office. Bogus Journey would end up making about $38 million on a $20 million budget in the States, and while the studio planned on a bigger box office, in the summer of 1992, the show was finally released. I'm a big fan of Evan Richards, and I really do enjoy his performance in this. I mean, there's all around great performances from everybody involved, but I feel Bill and Ted are kind of presented as ultimate parodies in this show, with the dumb aspect cranked up to 11, doing things out of character at times like maintaining jobs, but, who cares? There are times you forget you're even watching a show, and it feels like the Bill and Ted we all know and love. You can really tell that the dudes cared and tried hard to respect the show. That might have been harder to do with the TV format as far as the writing goes, but there's some really fun and innovative stuff happening here. The pilot remained unaired, and the to-be-continued storyline was left open. It dealt with the guys having to write and perform the big song, but not having an amp to do so. The song aspect being the only real connection to the original plot. The fake Rufus is also pretty funny to look at, and even the time-traveling phone booth kinda has a whole new set of rules here. The dudes use it to travel into magazines, and even into a soap opera. To stop a cross-dressing doctor. We have some top-notch shit here, folks.
I don't feel angry. I feel pretty.
Ted, the Dr. Deed is tinkering with his sexual orientation.
There's some good laughs throughout, though. Totally.
One of you takes my daughter Bernadette to the school dance.
Bernie Kielson?
Oh, you know Muffin?
You take her, Bill. No way, Ted. You take her. No way, man. You take her. Ted, we need that amp. I know, Bill, so take her. Ted, I have a reputation. Bill, so do I. She's totally gross.
Okay, that's it. Come on, let's go. Out of here.
And the show has some pretty intuitive gags.
Dude, look at you. Dude, look at you. We're totally pale. 15 minutes, exactly. Let's go.
Hey, what's going
But
on?
it's amazing to see what the cast, and especially the hard-working crew, were able to do on such a budget. I think rewatching it now, I tend to be a little too harsh on such things like, budgetary concerns and production, and but honestly, it holds up as a great piece of nostalgic TV, mixing the fish out of water aspect with science fiction. Not much would be revealed about the making of this series. Executive producer Clifton Campbell stated, "I feel we did 7 good episodes." The series came out at a point when audiences had essentially been flooded with Bill and Ted, but I felt we were able to give the audience a different take on it. He goes on to explain, Chris Matheson and Ed Sullivan, who wrote the original movie and sequel, had an idea for the series that Fox wasn't too excited about. Then Darren Star, who's responsible for Beverly Hills 90210, came up with an idea that Fox did get excited about, and the show was on again. We felt that having Bill and Ted go back and forth in time each week would get stale. So while we knew we had to keep the phone booth and the time travel element, we also knew we had to challenge the aspect. Star Evan Richards would have this to say about his time on the show. "I was a fan of Bill and Ted and was enamored by the charm and uniqueness of the two characters and their situation as everyone else was. I had read the feature film script and wasn't sure how it was going to play. The initial perception of the script was that Bill and Ted was very much like the Sean Penn role from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, divided into 2. But Bill and Ted weren't surfers. They were just excited. I actually watched the movie repeatedly to familiarize myself with the essence of Alex and Keanu's approach, to try and gain insight into what motivated their logic and speech pattern. At one point I ran into Keanu in the street who offered me some advice, to basically have fun with it and never take them, Bill and Ted, too seriously. Be excellent, in a nutshell. I have to say that I truly immersed myself into the Bill and Ted's world. Not saying that I went insane or anything, just wanted to have a great time making the best television series possible. How cool to act that offbeat and get away with it. There was a lot of competition for the part. I had them all murdered. That was a joke, of course. However, at a certain point, I was building confidence about getting the role, only because I felt I was connecting with it so much. But you never know in this business. So I was extremely shocked when my agent called to say that I had it. I tell you this much, it was a great day. You have to understand that when I auditioned, I walked into the producer's office as Bill, not as Evan Richards. I had to prove to them that I could pull this off. The best way was to never let the illusion down. One of my good friends at the time was auditioning for the part of Ted. I was hoping we'd get to work together on the series. Ironically enough, his name was Chris. So when they told me Chris got the role, I thought we had the gig together. Then I found out about Chris Kennedy, which worked out just as well. This was the first big break Chris got. He was from Canada, where we filmed the series. Vancouver for the Los Angeles Valley. The ratings at the time were actually not that bad. We needed to be able to grow creatively, and if anything, we needed a larger order of episodes to do that. 7 episodes is barely scratching the surface. We had many, many more exciting ideas to bring to the show. Perhaps we would have been able to do so if Alex and Keanu were part of it. I would have totally welcomed that. There was discussion on the production side of it that Fox didn't pick up the show for another season and that the producer wanted to take the show for a cable network series. In hindsight, that would have been a great move. Understandably, they have more to risk than to lose, namely their sponsors if they were to move to cable. We could have also gone into syndication if we had enough episodes. Most orders for new syndicated shows are something crazy like 50 episodes. That would have been great. The reason the television version of Weird Science did so well is because it was on cable, and that had a large episode order, taking advantage of that like I'm talking about. Don't forget, other John Hughes movie to television series like Ferris Bueller and Uncle Buck were on network broadcast. Once again, they had short lives like our show. We should have been on cable. I spoke to Alex after he dogged us on the Arsenio Hall show. I confronted him about his negative statements regarding the series. He was a gentleman about it and explained that he was hurt that he was never asked to participate in the series. I told him that if I had known about his inquiries, I would have pushed to include his involvement. We've talked to each other off and on through the years, and I've seen his films like Freaked and Fever, and I think he's a very talented man. Sure, there was disappointment by the ultimate outcome, but not by the work that was done. The series exists now, for the fans, for prosperity and fun. Nothing ever dies. The world is to recycle. I can easily see the studio doing another version of Bill and Ted 10 years from now, like the Batman franchise or Brady Bunch. The legacy of that show will never end, not in a million trillion years. See, when something works and it's that good, and there's money to be made from it, and fresh ways to approach it, then it will be revived. So that said, long live Bill and Ted. Hey, and I guess Evan was right. But ultimately, as far as ratings go, it was a most righteous failure. So there you have it. In the spectrum of film to TV adaptations, let's be honest, this might be one of the best of all time. I mean, there was some pretty big misses there. Stay tuned. And I kind of always felt it was a damn shame they didn't treat this show as more of a sequel or even taking place in between the two movies. But, things like not mentioning the fact that they've been to hell or had already met their soulmates were just, not mentioned. Although I suppose there is a kind of connection with the Deke series and the live-action show, and I still say that the sketch comedy series Assaulted Nuts.
Aren't you afraid just a little bit?
Are you kidding? With that weirdo makeup?
It is not makeup. I am naturally pale.
And Tales from the Crypt are in the same Bill and Ted universe.
So then I was over in India, and I ripped up this little monsoon. Man, I must have reaped hundreds that day. Hundreds, just like that.
Really?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Of course, I normally prefer to take souls one at a time, but, I had taken some vacation days, and it was the end of the month, and so, you know how it goes.
The show still remains a moderate cult classic, and testament of how a dedicated crew and actors on a tight rope can manage to produce a fresh and fun take on an existing property. It is possible. I'm glad I got this insight. I was able to reform my opinion on the show, as I found myself being underwhelmed upon rewatching recently, somehow missing its greatness. I'll post the link to the full series in the description. However, not everyone shared these sentiments. Come on, Alex.
And isn't there a live-action series coming?
Yeah, there is. There is a live-action series coming.
Are you going to be in that?
No.
Oh, no.
They didn't really let us get involved with the script. They didn't let any of us get involved with the creation of it. And so none of us, like the writers and me and Keanu, were really involved enough to make it what we wanted. Yeah. And they were like, well, here's what you're going to do. Here's what it's going to be about. And it's going to be like Porky's. Are you interested? No, thanks. Pass.
Have you seen any of this new live-action one?
Yeah.
How does it look? Is it?
Well, I don't know. Can I say this is going to be on this network? It's not, is it?
It doesn't matter. You can just tell the truth. That's
okay.
That's what's best.
I'm going to stare right into that camera and tell it stinks, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to say. I could have lied.
they really missed the boat.
This is the TV Wasteland. Be sure to subscribe.
Ziggy Piggy, Ziggy Piggy, Ziggy Piggy.